what I believe is happening, and that Rupert and my own fascination with the psychedelic experience and other phenomena in society all can be brought under the single umbrella of a resurgent vitalism, an awareness of the living vitality of form and organism and experience. And this is something that, in order to do its work, the Newtonian model had to expunge all that, had to call these things secondary qualities, epiphenomenal, derivative, this, that, and the other. And yet, these are the existential stuff of the felt world of being. So Rupert brings to biology a theory which links it back into physics and forward to psychology in a way that restores meaning, however much it may do damage to the somewhat infantile wish of the Cartesians to construct a closed tautology, which is really what they want to do, you know, and that's why they want to get rid of all these troubling phenomena that are of such a complexity that it exceeds their model. Well, I'm a great fan of this theory. I could run on at length about it, but the man who invented it is here with us. He can lead us to a deeper understanding of it. Please welcome Rupert Sheldrake, the greatest biologist of the age.
Well, it's you see, it's a paradoxical situation. It's a difficult act to follow, and yet I've somehow got to try after that build-up. I mean, it's. I think what Terence has, his explanation of how morphic resonance works is obviously eloquent and bardic, and I agree with it. And the point that he's put to us now is the thing about the experimental tests. This coming down very much to earth after this wonderful flight of Terence's imagination into those realms of the imagination that he leads us so easily. The tests so far have mostly been on human subjects, and those of you who've seen the new edition of A New Science of Life, which just came out 2 or 3 months ago in the United States, which was published about 3 years ago in Britain, that edition contains an appendix which brings you up to date on what had happened up until 1985. It contains a summary of the controversies and the discussions, including a reprint of the full Nature editorial attack, the book for burning article. And it also summarizes the experiments which were done in the realm of hidden images, puzzle pictures. I've talked about those before several times here and in San Francisco, so I'm not going to go into those, but those were, roughly speaking, experiments that involved showing hidden pictures containing a hidden image, a puzzle picture, on television to millions of people. And the test was to find out whether more people in other countries could recognize it, could spot the hidden image in these puzzle pictures before, if more could do it after it had been shown on TV in one country than before. So groups of subjects were tested in a variety of countries. The transmissions took place on British television, first on Thames Television, and then another experiment on the BBC involving about 8 million people in the audience. And the tests in other countries were done by volunteer experimenters. The tests involved 2 puzzle pictures. People in other countries were shown both of these for 30 seconds each. They had to guess or say what they saw in it. They were either right or wrong, easy to mark, and whether they got the hidden image or not. And the same two pictures were tested on different subjects after the TV transmission. One of them was a control, the other one that was shown on TV. Anyway, these experiments, which were then repeated in Germany, gave interesting but variable results. The first one showed a large increase, significant increase at the 1% level of probability in the recognition of the transmitted picture compared with the control picture, which remained constant. Very gratifying result. And so the experiment was done again on BBC with its larger audience. The second experiment showed a strong positive effect in Western Europe. More people in Germany and the countries recognized the picture shown on TV in Britain and the control picture didn't change. But it showed no effect in North America. Now, these results were very puzzling, and it's the kind of thing that, what do you make of that? I don't expect morphic resonance to work by a distance effect, which is the most obvious explanation. Could it be that somehow people in Europe, being in the same time zone, are more in phase with each other than those in the US at 6 to 9 hours shifted? If morphic resonance works as a resonance, then what phase people are in should be an important variable. So that's one possibility. And that's suggested by the results from South Africa, which is only 1 hour different from Britain, and at least as far away as New York and other places it was tested, which showed similar results to the European ones. It wasn't distance, it was time zone that seemed to be the variable. Anyway, this experiment was then done again in Germany. The pictures were new pictures, of course, in each experiment. And the pictures there were transmitted on a Sunday afternoon on a program there, and tests were done all around the world. No effect in North America. A highly significant effect in Britain. But in Britain, although it was highly significant and the control was no different, and the sample tested was something like 20,000 people. This was a huge sample. It was probably the biggest experiment ever done in terms of the number of participants. The effect showed that the picture had become significantly harder to recognize in Britain after it had been seen by a lot of Germans on a Sunday afternoon. Well, at this stage, I thought, well, this is too close to a kind of standard parapsychological experiment, a one-shot thing. I discussed it with Russell Targ, who I met at a conference, and he said, I bet if you do this experiment, you'll get all sorts of weird precognitive effects and so on. It's so like a parapsychology experiment. You'll get the same kind of anomalies and bizarre things that we get in ours. And I thought, well, maybe that was one way of looking at it. And thought that probably I should do what is more in the spirit of the hypothesis, namely try and test for the effect of repeated exposures, because it's a hypothesis of repetition leading to habit, not a kind of one-shot event. I wanted to look for where puzzle pictures, for example, could be seen many times. Well, at this stage it turned out that the only way to do this feasibly, since I couldn't persuade a TV company to show the same puzzle picture in the same test hundreds of times on their program, the obvious way to do that would be to have it in a TV commercial, or to have it in advertising in hoardings. And at this stage, I entered into discussions with various leading members of the advertising industry, including some at the think tank here in San Francisco. And it seemed that they were indeed quite interested in this approach. And at that stage, then they sent to me from their offices in Madison Avenue for some puzzle pictures and started doing some trial ones for a campaign. But at this stage, I began to get cold feet. I began to think, do I really want the first tests of morphic resonance to be done directly and completely as part of a kind of advertising stunt and as part of an advertising research project? And it's not, things should continue as they begin to some extent, and I thought it just wasn't a very auspicious beginning. And I didn't get too involved with that. I've sort of backed down on that one.